Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Fantasy literature will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm B.J. Williams. Philip Martin will tell us about his book, The Writer's Guide to Fantasy Literature. Susie Beasley will talk with Phil Talbert. Kids Corner will feature Shelley Ziegler-Hill. We also have Doug Benton, Kim Edwards, Heidi Daniel Morgan, and Kenji Hood. Coming up, Philip Martin.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Every spring, I get to visit the Oklahoma Writers Federation Conference held in Oklahoma City. It's a wonderful opportunity to meet authors, editors, and people from the literary world from outside of Oklahoma. I also get to do a lot of interviews, and one of those I did was with Philip Martin, who is the editor of the Writer's Guide to series, which is part of the Writer magazine. He's also a folklorist and an award-winning author of books on cultural traditions. I think you'll enjoy what he had to say about his book, The Writer's Guide to Fantasy Literature. Phil, what inspired you to write The Writer's Guide to Fantasy Literature?
Well, I guess, originally I was, as a kid, a big fan of fantasy, so I tell people it wasn't just so all those fantasy books I would get to buy would be tax deductible, but it was really because with the Harry Potter movie coming out and the Tolkien revival and his movies coming out, what was real obvious is that fantasy was being lumped in with science fiction. It really hadn't been looked at as its own style of writing. It was often just considered something for kids. And working with the Writer books, I thought, it's a much more important topic, and I foolishly agreed to do the book myself instead of trying to find an outside writer, because I had my own ideas about what I wanted to say. And one of the main things was to separate it out from science fiction, that although they're both very speculative and imaginative, really fantasy goes a completely different direction, and it's much closer to great literature through the ages, going back to Homer and his stories of Cyclops and sirens, and people like Dante and Milton and Shakespeare, Midsummer's Night Dream. That fantasy has been a part of literature, great literature, for a long time. And these same themes are being retold by people like J.K. Rowling. And when I looked on the market, all the books were about writing science fiction and fantasy. And they would talk about science fiction, and they'd say, well, then you could write fantasy too. And you don't have to be so scientific. And that just seemed a little thin, so next thing I knew, I had a book's worth of stuff, and so hardly knew what I had gotten myself into.
Well, I particularly appreciated your definition of fantasy, because I for a long time, I have said when I walk into a bookstore, fantasy and science fiction are two different things, and they're both lumped on that same shelf. And I really appreciate the way you clarified the difference. I think you were very concise and clear about it for all of us, that there is a real difference, and you really go to them for two different things.
Yeah, fantasy is always, you're seeking things within. You're looking in your heart and your soul for just the way you would like the world to be, the desires or just hopes and dreams. And if you want horses that can fly like Pegasus, or if you want a magic wand, and these are very central to, it's really just what people would like the world to be like. Like kids would like to have power. They wouldn't want their kid, their parents always, they'd like that little magic wand to be able to go off and do things by themselves. And it's very easy to diminish that as being, just wish fulfillment and very.
Or just things for kids.
Just things for kids. A lot of fantasy is considered juvenile literature. Philip Pullman is an author who did a trilogy, The Golden Compass, and it's really based on John Milton's Paradise Lost, retold in a fantasy setting. And very sophisticated concepts, and it's marketed though as children's literature. And kids enjoy it, but they don't see the layers. And a lot of it's the publisher's fault. The publishers want to categorize things and find their little pigeonhole to put things in. I worked once with a Native American storyteller, did a book of her stories, and she was telling creation myths or stories of like when Rabbit was foolish and lost his long tail, and and her book would always get categorized as children's literature, and she thought that was so funny that non-Indians would separate stories into stories for kids and stories for adults. And she said, you just tell a story when someone needs to hear it, and they take their own meaning out of it. So fantasy stories are read and reread by people into their adult years, and some of the books that are considered children's books, clearly, like Winnie the Pooh, are loved by adults.
Well, I understand an awful lot of adults had to find a kid to stand in line for the Harry Potter books.
Exactly. I just saw a report in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that said of the 80 million Harry Potter books sold of the first 4 books, that the study showed that 30% have been bought for readers who were aged 35 and over. So a third of the market of those books are being bought by adults. And, the reason is they're stories of, that appeal to us,
Right.
They always will and always did. So I had a lot of fun definitely writing the book and reading a lot of fantasy.
Well, we've got just a couple of minutes here, but one of the things I wanted to ask you was you have interviews with a number of fantasy authors in here, and I'm very curious, how did you decide which ones you wanted to interview?
Well, I was trying to find authors that fit kind of a scheme I had about separate some of the groups of fantasies, like high fantasy and fairy tale fiction, and then magic realism, dark fantasy. And so I was looking for people whose books just really fit that perfectly, and who I thought could tell me what I wanted to hear, I guess. It's looking for the answer. But and what I was happy was the people I found did kind of confirm what I was hoping was there. And a lot of fantasy is based on the bad guys. Villains seem to be the most interesting character, actually, in all of fiction, I think. And in fantasy, how you defined evil. If it was capital E, evil, then you wrote a certain kind of book. Or like in fairy tale fiction, the bad guys are often very close to home. It can be like the evil stepmother, very close to the personal family, close to the cottage. So I looked for the authors who were writing in very different styles.
Well, I want to thank you very much. Our time is up, but thanks again for talking to us about The Writer's Guide to Fantasy Literature.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Remember, you can find Philip Barton's The Writer's Guide to Writing Fantasy Literature at your local library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up next, we have Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Phil Tomroth about a video I'm sure we'll all enjoy.
Phil, what is this video about? The Reduced Shakespeare Company? This is a hilarious comedy performance about all of the works of Shakespeare condensed into a 90-minute presentation. It's incredible. It's pretty good. We've got 3 people working together as a theater group,
Right.
and they are doing all of the works of Shakespeare in a very comical style, very well done to give you an overview of Shakespeare's stuff.
So now, how the story is presented, or where they really start out? They're not serious. They want you to laugh and still get the gist of the stories.
Correct. They start out actually with a bit of an introduction to Shakespeare, who he was and where he was born and all of this kind of thing. They throw a few lines of humor in there that don't really relate to Shakespeare, but that's okay. You it keeps you going. And then they talk about, well, this is all staged on the stage of the Globe Theater, right there, and then you just go from one performance after the other. It starts out with Romeo and Juliet, done very humorously, and then Titus Andronicus with as a cooking program, chopping off all of the limbs. And then Othello is done in a rap style. Since none of them are African American, they decide to use rap to do the Othello story.
And there are 3 guys that are doing the comedy
There are 3 guys.
And they have all the costumes and everything.
All the costumes constantly changing from one costume to another. One fellow always has the wig on to do the female roles, and it's just one thing after the other. Then they do Macbeth in a totally Scottish style. And Julius Caesar and Antony and Cleopatra, they just whiz right through those. All of the nobles and the kingsmen and the different kingdoms, they do them as a football game. It's incredible how they do it. They just,
and how to kind of just tear it together.
Yes.
And this is not put out by PBS, by the way, right?
No, it's just this group, this organization.
Oh, okay. So what are some of the ways that this video might be used?
I think it could be used to give students an overview of Shakespeare, an introduction to it, and a fun way to look at it. I mean, at the very second half of this, they did Hamlet, for instance, and all of the audience was involved in it, running all over the stage. It was just a...
Now, they use sock puppets during the Hamlet segment.
Sock puppets involved in that section on Hamlet, too. It just hilarious. And for all ages, too. The youngest children were there, as well as older people, senior citizens. Everyone got into it. Yeah.
So this video runs 90 minutes, and it came out 2000? 2001.
2001,
okay,
yes.
And since you thoroughly recommend it and everything, and we know it's at most of the libraries, and after this segment, everybody may want to check it out, so we have to put on reserve.
Yeah, we will, I'm sure.
And they do have a little warning on the box, high-speed hilarity, not for people with weak hearts or English degrees.
That's right. That wouldn't be a good idea, I don't think.
There's a lot of creative licensing where they just take Shakespeare and go a different way with it. Well, Phil, we certainly appreciate you coming and sharing with us the Reduced Shakespeare Company. This video is available at your local library, perhaps your local video store. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Phil.
Okay.
Dig it, matey. Dig it at Metro Library. Call this number. Dig it. Dig it at Metro Library. Call this number.
Dorothy Sayers was one of the most popular authors of crime mysteries in the 20th century, and her crime-solving aristocrat, Lord Peter Wimsey, was probably one of the most popular crime solvers of the time as well. She died in 1957, much to the sadness of people who love crime novels and fell in love with Lord Peter themselves. Her last book about Lord Peter was Busman's Honeymoon, in which he had finally married Harriet Vane, the crime novelist, and they trotted off to Talboys outside of London to live happily ever after while solving crimes. A number of years ago, the Sayers estate approached Jill Patton Walsh, who is an award-winning novelist in her own right, about concluding a book that Sayers had been working on when she died, and it came out a couple of years ago. It was called Thrones, Dominations. It was another Lord Peter and Harriet Vane mystery. This one took place shortly after their honeymoon, when they were called upon to solve yet again another murder. Well, that seemed to be that as far as Lord Peter was concerned. But during the war years, Dorothy Sayers had, for papers and magazines, written a number of letters to and from members of the Whimsy family to help explain, I guess, to the public what was going on in the early years of the war effort. Those have been collated, and Jill Patton Walsh used them to create yet another murder mystery featuring particularly Harriet Vane, now Lady Peter Wimsey, at Talboys, their retreat outside of London. Lord Peter is off somewhere on the continent doing something really important for the war effort, and Harriet has been asked by the very understaffed local police to investigate the murder of a land girl. At the beginning of the war, most of the farm boys were drafted into the Army, and a call went out to ask young women to go live on farms and work the land, thus the term land girls. They caused quite a ruckus in most of the little villages that they ended up in, since most of them were smart, sophisticated, and very trendy city girls who were far too fast for the local village folk. And one of them, who was known not very happily as Wicked Wendy for her flirting ways, ended up dead during an air raid. Harriet had to find out who, how, when, and why. All they were certain of was that it was a very vicious crime, and it was not the work of the supposed German bombers that flew over during the air raid. It's a delightful book. I think anybody who has enjoyed Sayers' other work will find this a very worthy follower in her tradition. Patton Walsh has very cleverly used a number of characters that were developed in Busman's Honeymoon, so she has an idea of what Sayers was working with in this small village that was, I am assuming, very typical of England during the early years of the war. She's done a lot of research, so we find out a great deal about what people were expecting to happen. This was set in actually before the Blitz in London, and people are just then finding out that there weren't going to be extra clothes, that they were going to have to make do, that they had to get a license to slaughter their own pig in their own backyard. The reaction of local village folk to government interference and things like that is a real treat in this book. If you've enjoyed any of Sayers' other books, I think you will very much enjoy Jill Patton Walsh's and Dorothy Sayers' A Presumption of Death. You can find it at your local library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner. Kelly Rhea will be talking with Shelley Ziegler-Hill about a book for our young adults.
Hi, I'm here with Shelley Ziegler-Hill. She's from the Dell City Library. She's the young adult librarian there. She's brought a book called The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. It looks really interesting. Tell me about this.
It is. It's a real fun, lighthearted book. But it does have some underlying serious issues as well. But the premise of the book is it tells the story of 4 girls. Lena, Bridget, Tibby, and Carmen. And each of them have a very distinct personality trait that kind of makes them stand out. Like Lena's the great beauty, Bridget's the athlete, and so on. And it's their first summer apart. They've kind of grown up together, and they usually spend the summer together. Well, this summer, each of them they're going somewhere else. Like one girl's going to go to Greece, one's going to go spend the summer with her family or her step family, and so on. So it's a hard time for them. So they decide to keep their bond. One of the girls, I think it's Carmen, she finds these fabulous jeans in this thrift store that look really good on her. Right. And what is amazing is when she brings them back to her friends and they see them, they look good on all the girls. And they're all different sizes too, so it's not like, they're all the same looking, but they're just these great pants. So they come up with this really neat idea that they will share the pants over the summer. And what happens is all of the girls kind of grow up over the summer, and they have like a very interesting experience that kind of changes their life in a way. And the pants are with them at the time when this happens. And they have this list of rules you have to do when you have the pants. Like you can't wash the pants.
Yeah, that's rule number 1.
Yeah, that's in
you must never double cuff the pants.
Yes, you can't do that. Or I think it's tuck in your shirt while you're wearing the pants. That may be one. So they have all these really cute rules, and after your time is up with the pants, you have to send it to the next girl so she can have her time with the pants. So it's really cute, but there are some real serious issues that happens to each girl over the summer. And there also is a sequel that just came out. I actually have not read the sequel yet, but I just wanted to bring it to let you know. It's called the Second Summer of the Sisterhood, and it has been a very anticipated sequel. So it has just come out as well.
Well, it looks like Amber Shares has really got a good idea.
Yes.
This is a great read for teens.
Yeah, I would say, and it's a very fast-paced read. So if someone's not really into reading, this would be a good book because it really is very engaging and will move them along very quickly.
And it's got exciting characters that they
Yes.
would relate to and they would like to hang out with.
Oh, I think so. And it probably is a book more for teenage girls than
Right.
boys, I would say.
Well, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. Teenagers are going to love it. Find it at your local bookstore or your favorite library.
Thanks, Kelly and Shelley. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out, as usual, with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is The Other Woman by Eric Jerome, The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews, The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger, A Cold Heart by Jonathan Kellerman, The Second Time Around by Mary Higgins Clark, The Guardian by Nicholas Sparks, The Sinister Pig by Tony Hillerman, Armageddon by Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins. Number 2 is The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, and number 1 is John Sanford's Naked Prey. On the nonfiction list, number 10 is A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson, Open by John Feinstein, Stupid White Men by Michael Moore, Moneyball by Michael Lewis, What Should I Do with My Life by Poe Bronson, Krakatoa by Simon Winchester, A Patriot's Handbook selected by Caroline Kennedy, Robert Buzz Patterson's Dereliction of Duty, Leap of Faith by Queen Noor is number 2, and number 1 is An Unfinished Life by Robert Dalick. On the children's list, number 10 is The Seeing Stone by Tony D. Terlizzi and Holly Black, The Miserable Mill by Lemony Snicket, The Wide Window by Lemony Snicket, The Field Guide, also by Tony D. Terlizzi and Holly Black, Lemony Snicket's Reptile Room, The Carnivorous Carnival by Lemony Snicket, The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket, Princess in Waiting by Meg Cabot, The Second Summer of the Sisterhood by Anne Brashares is number 2, and Ian Colfer's Artemis Fowl, The Eternity Code is number 1. Coming up next, we have Doug Benton of the Metropolitan Library System and the Oklahoma Gazette. He'll be talking with Kim Edwards from the Downtown Library. She wants to tell us about one of the CDs that's in our collection.
Hello again, everybody. Kim, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
This is your first taping. I'm pleased to have you with us. Yes. You brought a CD.
Yes, I did.
By the singer Aaliyah. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about it. I have to admit, I don't know her work. I know her name, and I saw her movie, but I don't know her as a singer. Tell us a little bit about it. Who is she? Was she?
Aaliyah is Aaliyah Houghton, and she was a very gifted and talented R&B singer whose life was cut short in August of 2001. This CD is her I Care For You album, which is basically a greatest hit or a compilation album. It contains older tracks that were more popular and also some newer unreleased tracks.
Okay. Now, you said that she was a R&B singer, rhythm and blues, right? Talk a little bit about that for people who don't know
Okay.
exactly what that is.
I considered her an R&B singer, but a lot of people might consider her a hip hop singer. But to me, her vocal style was a lot more mature than that. She had a deeper range, and her voice was more emotional. And she kind of reminded me of the jazz singers from the old, and that her voice was full and emotional. And in this CD, you can track actually her progress from when she started, and she was 15 when she started, to when her life was cut short when she was 22 years old. But unlike most hip-hop artists of today, she has more of a range to her talent.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the kind of people you think might enjoy the CD.
Well, anybody who I think likes good R&B music will like this album. Like I said, even though some might consider her a hip-hop artist, she sung R&B, and this album really is a good place to start for those who want to begin listening to her, because it has her older stuff in it, and like I said, it had newer tracks that nobody have ever heard before, and you can just hear her grow from the danceable back and forth to the more soulful, deep I Care For You. The album will appeal, of course, to the hip-hop crowd, and which is the younger crowd, but I think anyone who likes good rhythm and blues music will like this album.
Okay, Kim, thank you. It's Aaliyah's I Care For You. Well, let's do a little bit of it as we fade away, and we'll see you again soon.
You know, just wanna let you know I care for you. Can I talk to you? I wanna talk, comfort you. Got to let you know, baby. You know I wanna.
Thanks, Doug and Kim. Coming up next, we have Heidi Daniel Morgan. She'll be talking with student Kenji Hood from North Edmond High School about a book that he really enjoyed.
Hi, Kenji. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book you brought today?
Well, this book is a fantasy book, and well, it's not like you can be like, hey, that's like me, because, you know, you don't run into trolls every day.
No, it's true, you don't.
Yeah, and so, I mean, this is a story about some knight, like, he's known, like, around the whole world, well, the world in the book, and, well, he was known for being this guy that God's created that has no destiny, but everyone else does. So no one knows really what he's going to do. And, well, when he finds this power, that's like this strange power inside this rose, the sapphire rose. That was the name of one of the other books, and well, that power allows him to do anything. He's as powerful as a god. And in the other trilogy before this one, he actually destroys a god, an evil god that's trying to ruin the world. And so the gods are afraid of him, actually, and they're trying to do everything they can to pretty much get rid of him. And so that's pretty much how this whole trilogy starts at. And this one, it's another god trying to kill him. So he's just working with other knights and trying to get rid of the god.
So this is the second book in a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And this trilogy follows a trilogy before this with the same characters, is that right?
There's a few new ones in this one, but pretty much they're the same.
Okay, and this main character, you said he was created by the gods?
Yeah. Well,
and nobody else knows their destiny, or everybody else knows their destiny, but he doesn't have a destiny?
Well, the gods know everyone's destiny except his. He has no destiny. Everyone else, they know, like, about what they're gonna do and who they're gonna end up with, but with him, it's just complete chance. They have no idea, and so they're kind of afraid of him, actually. Mm-hmm. That's why they want to get rid of him.
And what's the name of the world this takes place?
Well, they never said the name of the world, but they said the name of the continents. Like, the one he's from is Alenia, but this one's set in Tamil, and so it's like he saved Alenia, and so Tamil's trying to get him there, but at the same time, God's trying to kill him constantly.
So this sounds like a world very different from ours.
Yeah.
So it's not a science fiction book set in the future, it's a
No, it's a fantasy. So.
And what do you like about David Eddings' style of writing?
Well, he describes everything that's around him, but it's not too descriptive. Like, with me, if I read and he's talking about like a column or something for like 3 pages, I kind of get bored and I don't really like it. So with this one, he just kind of gets to the point real fast, and it just helps me a little bit. You kind of get that feeling that you're almost there, and so.
So it's descriptive without being overly descriptive. So should you read the first one first?
Yeah, you definitely should. If you didn't read it, well, beforehand they'll give you a small summary, but if you don't read the first one, you'll be kind of lost, so you really do.
Good to know. Thank you so much.
Dig it. Dig it at Metro Library. Call this number. Dig it, baby. Dig it at Metro Library. Call this number.
Thanks for being with us. Check everything out at www.metrolibrary.org. And we'll see you again next time.